Hey everybody, it's Andy Cloudy Mulder, your self-proclaimed metal mogul, back with another UK Thrash Assault, a triple shot of UK thrash albums in my collection. Slowly but surely showing off three random albums from that corner of my collection in this series, and I'm constantly adding to it, which is why I'm not doing just a standard A to Z collection video. And it also allows me to kind of go in and have a listen to some bands I may not have heard in a while. Arbitrator is one of them. I say a triple shot, but I'm actually going to show you 4 albums today. Only 3 CDs, but 4 albums in total, because Arbitrator, Balance of Power, Dive Bomb 2017 reissue, also came packaged with their second album, Darkened Reality, which originally came out in 1993. Arbitrator are a bit of an underground gem, really. They, up until the reissue came out, there was very little known or spoken about them. This was a band, and I mentioned this briefly in the last video. I see UK thrash bands coming from 3 origins: new wave of heavy metal bands that or influenced people that wanted to go faster, the US thrash metal scene, and punk bands that got disillusioned with the whole punk era and were reinvigorated by the sound of thrash metal and decided to have a go at it themselves. Arbitrator were born from such a band, and that band was called the Verucas. Now, I think it's only Tony Martin, or Rat as he was known in the Verucas, that is the original member of the band. I think they started off as it was the whole band, and then musical differences or what have you, it ended up only with Rat left. And he wanted to get into thrash metal, but he still loved his Verucas, and he didn't want to become one of those bands that went from punk to thrash metal, pissed off all the punk fans, and then maybe went back to punk, and then they couldn't gain momentum again because they'd lost all their fan base. So the Verucas were parked, Arbitrator was created, and then once the brief UK thrash metal scene also died out, Rat restarted the Verucas, and they just carried on where they left off before without any disgruntled fans to have to appease again. These guys are from Warwick in the Midlands, and both of these albums only got a DIY release back then, which is a very punk attitude to take. Couldn't get any funding, so went the self-funded route and set up their own record label. As a result, Balance of Power, the first album, only came out in vinyl, and it's one of those albums that's at least, it's going to set you back the best part of 50 quid if you can find a copy and someone willing to sell it. Whereas Balance of Power didn't really get a proper release at all. If you look on Discogs, you can't actually buy it now because it's not an official release, but it only has a CDR version listed. And when you could buy bootlegs and CDRs and things on Discogs, this thing went for £400 plus. It had a range between 200 and 500, but the mid-range was about 400 quid for a CDR. That's how hard it was to get hold of. In fact, when Rat was trying to get get some music to actually do the remastering on, he had to actually go out and buy a copy of the CD, and it cost him 93 quid. All this is in the Contact in Blood book. Obviously, it's not that I'm mates with him and know all these details, but let me talk about Balance of Power first. So that was the first album. See, there's the band. Balance of Power has it's almost got like a, dare I say, sort of power metal thrash feel to it. It's really the production's quite lively and bright, a bit like Anthrax's production. They don't sound like Anthrax, but I mean that about the sound of the band. Still heavy, just not a dark, miserable sounding thrash album. Songs to check out for me are The Treaty, which is kind of their version of Indians, about how the American Indians were treated as the villains all the time, and the white cowboys as the heroes. Deadly Assassin, great song. Evil Emperor, Conquest. In fact, this whole album is absolutely superb. And there's also the Conquest demo tracks that are on this album as well. It's just a really, really good, lively thrash metal album. Darkened Reality, on the other hand, I haven't got a picture of the cover, but the cover pretty much matches what you'll see on the CD there. Darkened Reality is... it's a darker album. It's got a much meatier thrash sound to it. Heavier riffs. I mean, the songs are still pretty catchy. I mean, Judge and Jury, probably my favourite song on here. Guilty of No Crime. Darkened Reality as well. Pretty decent song. But, I don't know, I was going to say unfortunately, but there is a bonus track on here, which is Memories of Yesterday, which is also one of their early demo tracks, I believe. That is my favourite song on it, but it's got much more of the sound of Balance of Power. And Rat's vocals are a lot sort of higher, almost sort of falsetto, whereas you've got a lot more gruff between Balance of Power and Darkened Reality. But for me, Darkened Reality, it's a good album start to finish, but nothing really pops out, whereas Balance of Power has some of those memorable songs. But overall, fantastic album. Dive Bomb issue, as always, fantastic. Great booklet. Write-up, pictures of ticket stubs and concerts, posters, and with a bolt thrower. Lyrics, of course, and some great band footage in here as well. Actually, that's the cover for Darkened Reality. Which I don't think there's any lyrics of Darkened Reality in here. No, it's just the lyrics for Balance of Power, which is interesting. I thought there was also some band shots in here, but I think I'm probably mixing this up with one of the other CDs that's coming up next. But Arbitrator, forgotten gem of UK thrash metal. Definitely check these guys out. They've really got something that's just a little bit different, and it isn't one of your Bay Area thrash clones. Balance of Power, Darkened Reality, Dive Bomb 2017 reissue. Next up, got Holosade or Holosade. Never quite sure which way to say it, but this is Hellhouse, originally from 1998. Another Dive Bomb Records reissue, this time from 2015. These were a one and done band until very recently. Last year they released their second album. There's the band, as you can say, Philip Dessard on the left hand side. He's all in the makeup and the Torturers get up. Apparently they all started out like this, but the rest of the band didn't really like it, so they just decided that old Phil on vocals would carry on with the look. This is a superb album. These guys are from Darlington in North England. It's a melodic speed thrash album. We have the 8 tracks from the original album, 2 bonus tracks from the Neat Records demos, and then a BBC One radio rock show session from 1988. I don't remember, I probably heard that back in 1988, but I wasn't familiar with this band until the last few years, actually, as I started diving a little deeper, or very deep, into the UK thrash metal scene. Songs on here, and there are some great ones. In fact, I think I've written most of them down. Look into the Mirror, Welcome to Hellhouse, Psycho, Eternal Life, Madame Guillotine, that's a great one. I've written Look into the Mirror twice, that must be a fantastic song. This remastered version was remastered by Andy Sneap, no less. Is there anything he hasn't touched? Most of the songs as well seem inspired by horror films, and the band unfortunately fell apart pretty much after this. But as I say, they reformed recently, and they released an album last year, which is pretty good, which I will showcase in a future episode of UK Thrash Assault. As to the sound, I've not even mentioned what they sound like. There's some Exodus in here, some Anthrax influences, along with Raven. Hear quite a bit of Raven, some Maiden, of course, and a new wave of British heavy metal as well. It's a really, really good album, one that you should definitely check out. So the Dive Bomb Records reissue from 2015 is a really accessible way of getting a hold of this one. The third and final CD for today, fourth album though, of course, is this Solitary, Nothing Changes. A more modern band. These guys, I think, were formed in the mid-90s, and this is from their debut album from 1998 on Holier Than Thou Records. Never heard of them either. Now, this band is from Preston. Preston, of course, also being the hometown of Zentrix. And Zentrix had a really big influence on the guys for this band, especially... and I'm going to quote, you'll see this happen a lot in this series, especially young, what's his name, Richard Sherrington, the vocalist and guitarist. He won a competition to spend some rehearsal time and watch Zentrix set up for the Dilute to Taste live EP that came out, and he was I'll go into detail my thoughts on that one later on, but it was such a cool link I had to show. He ended up with his so everyone who went to the show, including our very own Mark G with a K, ended up with their name on the list, and Richard Sheringham got his name top left, first name on the list. So he was only, I think, about 15 at the time, and they were apparently a massive influence on him and got him playing the guitar and into thrash metal. So there's lyrics on the inside, but it's just a simple folded J card. That's your CD. So what do they sound like? I hear a lot of sort of 90s Megadeth in here, but it doesn't sound like Megadeth. But then again, neither did Megadeth in 1998. It's not groove thrash either, but there's some grooviness to it as well. It's a lot more modern sound than late 80s, early 90s UK thrash metal, that's for sure. But doesn't mean it's not worth checking out at all. It really is a melting pot of sort of aggressive thrash and some groove elements to it as well. These guys, I think they've got 4 albums out at all. They've had one out this year as well. I have a live album, which is pretty much a comeback album from a few years ago, which again will be in an up and coming episode, but I wanted to get the first album out the way and introduce you guys to Solitary. Well worth checking out. So there we have it. That's your triple shot of UK Thrash Assault for this time around. I will see you in the next episode.